The Secret Path by Paul Brunton. Chapter 2, Part 2. When I became aware of my environment, I could barely see the trees again, for it was grown dark. The light had faded out of the day, and the scintillating stars were coming to birth in the sky. The first wan rays of the moon threw a few gleams upon the fallen tree. I could see little else. I arose and made the homeward journey. As I walked through the grass with stick trembling in my hand, and with thoughts fastened upon the august utterance which had fallen from those reproving lips, I suddenly realized that the accusation was perfectly true. I had considered none save myself. I had followed the light of the star of truth, the star which attracted me most out of the whole sky, but I had followed it for myself alone. I left my countryside musings and returned to town, entering with a strange awe its streets so canopied by the darkness of night. Here were millions of beings compelled by the demands of society to go to bed at the behest of a clock and to rise at the ringing of a noisy alarm bell. Yes, I had supped alone, feasting on divine verities that can never die. Would not my own soul grow lean and small if I disdained those who were hungry for that which I had taken freely out of the seemingly impenetrable silence of the sky? Could one rest with the mere recovery of these truths for oneself? There are other people in this populous world, and among them a few who might welcome such thoughts as I could give them. The world of fact has little sympathy with the man who stands aloof and keeps his soul free for visions in which it does not share. And the world is right. We who are the seers and mystics have to draw the last crystal drop of water from out of the well of vision, but with that begins our duty, stern and strict, of offering the unfamiliar drink to the first wayfarer thirsty enough to accept it. Not for ourselves alone, but for all alike, does Neptune cast his magic trident over the deep places of the soul and show us his glamorous pictures therein. If the privilege of sitting at the feet of forgotten but nonetheless potent gods is indeed high, then the travail of carrying their message to an unheeding yet suffering people is just as high, just as noble. Perhaps no man's mind is so clothed in ugliness that a few faint gleams of hidden beauty do not trouble him now and again and cause him to raise his head a little towards the stars, sometimes in perplexity at the meaning of it all, sometimes in wonder at the ceaseless harmony of the spheres. Forget not thy fellows in distress, my strange visitant had told me. What then could I do? I could not tarry over much in this western country and neglect my trans-Asiatic expedition, for which the pressure of fate and the pull of inclination had conspired to smooth my path. How then, for the sake of one's fellows, could one assume the prophetic mantle and hat and go out to spread what one had learned to regard as truth? And the answer rose up clearly in my mind, in the shape of a self-evident thought. I would set down some of the things which life had taught me, and then leave the written record behind. I could but call at the doors of men and deliver a few thoughts which had helped me, and then I must withdraw and leave the latter to do their mission. I could not undertake to play the advocate on their behalf. Whoever would receive them readily should surely be helped too, but whoever rejected them might find elsewhere his meat and drink. Could my record but meet with a man at some crucial, troubled moment in his life. Who knew how far it might guide him towards the eternal good? I would try to put into the words of that book a wisdom learnt from dearly bought experience. There would be sentences that would hold the marrow of the day spent in mourning, and phrases would fall from my pen which would embalm tears that once fell from my eyes. I would do all this because I should like those pages to carry healing and consolation to those who are in present distress, to show them that man contains rare and unexpected resources within himself, wherewith to meet and overcome the hard trials which few can escape. But it need not, therefore, be a joyless book, for it would also hold the lingering echoes of many happy hours spent in sublime peace. It would more than hint at the ecstatic enjoyment of diviner states which are open to man. No, it need not be a joyless book. Indeed, it could not be. The flowers must drop their petals one by one. The moon waxes and must wane. Even the lark's fine song must one day be stilled. But I have found a land where strange flowers grow, and grow forever, where the sky's light is never less, and where all things sing an immortal music that has not ceased since time began. Thus, the pages which follow took their genesis. If they seem to consist of little more than a collection of scattered thoughts loosely tied together, I must ask the pardon and indulgence of the reader, for I gather my written thoughts in motley. They are always disjointed and come only in fragments. I stand ashamed before the facile orations of other men, whose sequences flow like a stream of oil. This halting utterance of mine I attribute to a natural impulse of my mind to enter into a state of rest, rather than to enter into a state of activity. There is a war in my heaven every time I take up my pen, which has accepted the limitations with which it was born and does not aspire towards a better technique. It will be observed that there is very little argument in these pages, but very much that will provoke it. The reason will be plain to those who have mastered the mystery of Christ's saying, quote, "Except ye become as little children, ye shall not enter the kingdom of heaven," end quote. But it will be hard to grasp by the ultra-clever, the super shrewd, and the ego-centered. For intellect is but a machine. It makes a splendid servant, yet a bad master. We are apt to criticize where we do not comprehend, where something here indited appears difficult to grasp, or seems superficially obscure. The reader should, nevertheless, ponder upon it until he reaches the point of discovery. If I can stimulate him to discover his own true thought, I render him better service than if I teach him. This age reads in order to kill time, but a few wise men read in order to make time alive. I hope the latter will find this book. Crusading holds no charms for me, and agitating would be but a torment. Rather would I be a stimulator, stimulating others not to join some cult, but to think for themselves and to think deeper than the conventional men of our time. It is only by thinking a matter out for oneself that we understand it best. I cannot hope to convey my understanding to you, but I can hope to arouse that faculty within you which will give you perception. Hence, these writings do not formulate any fixed system which you have to swallow by an act of faith. They aim at being suggestive. They try to challenge you to think for yourself. They provide you with mental nuts to crack in the form of unusual questions. You can create a new system of ideas for yourself by musing upon these pages, but it will be your own system, not another's. Such thoughts as these may begin by startling you, but they may end by stimulating you. I do not know. I am not writing for the benefit of the man who's already put up the shutters of his mind and firmly fixed them, in case the light of a few new ideas might stream in and disturb his sleep. I am writing for the few who, amid the modern muddle of bewildering doctrines, have placed their feet upon tentative ground because there seems no safer place in sight. Those who look for plenty of facts in this book will not find them. There are thousands of books which will give them all the facts they could ever want, and better still, there is the voluminous Book of Life, capital B, capital L, which they can always consult and in which they can always verify every statement I have made. My aim has been to give the soul of all these facts. I have tried to sum up in one flash of a sentence what lies behind 100,000 facts, events, and experiences. Because I spent the years stretching my philosophical soul upon the rack until I found the truth. I am in no mood to listen to polished platitudes, nor to write them, yet really there is nothing new in the essential thought behind these pages, though it does not matter so much whether these are new or whether these are neglected thoughts, as whether they are true thoughts. Medieval men like Thomas Kempis, Kempis, and Jacob Boehme, Boehme, communicated the same thought in earlier centuries, but they communicated it in a form which makes no great appeal to me, and will make even far less appeal to my contemporaries. Yet they wrote out a veridic experience which any man of the 20th century may duplicate, if he will. Those who regard this experience as inconceivable at most and illogical at least should investigate before they snatch at such final conclusions. For I know that I have tried to tackle this difficult investigation of life in a scientific yet reverent spirit, to approach it with an impartial love of truth for its own sake, and not in order to confirm or refute any particular theories, that I should treat seriously of little-known states of consciousness in this book may seem superstitious to the many, but it is true science to me. Those who can receive it in this light will find their faith rewarded by time, who will likewise pay their credulity with first-hand knowledge. My confidence stands serene and unshaken that I can make good my thesis against all comers, but only if they are prepared to undertake the same psychological experiments which I undertook. The thoughts I now give out did not come to me after long argument, they came after long experience. Whoever therefore would understand them aright must be willing to invite the same experience, and this will come readily enough if he is as keen on finding the truth as he is on his other and more mundane affairs. If, therefore, I find the spiritual life no less substantial than the material one, so can every reader of this book. I possess no special privilege which other human beings do not possess. I can claim no magic gift which has not been fought for by continued effort. What I have found within myself is precisely what anyone else, even a hardened Chicago gangster, may find in his own self too. If the phrases of this book are occasionally fervent and sometimes heated, this can be explained only because it is a transcript from life, not a collection of academic theories evolved amid quiet cloisters of a Cambridge. Can no one be a good philosopher unless he writes coldly, as though he took no interest in his subject? Must his pages be pale and colorless? Must he carefully prune all emotional expressions out of them before he is safe reading? The critic cannot refute his work, because it is based not upon human intellectual opinions, but upon eternal truths as old as the starry heavens that greet our gaze at night, truths that are embedded in both nature and man. They are there, but they must be dug out. This book is but one voice, crying in the wilderness of the stricken world. There are others, and in many countries. The message it carries in its pages is simple, yet subtle. It is a literary arrow, drawn and disposed at a venture, but it is yet guided by a higher hand than mine. Fate, the needs of many persons who have written to me, and the expressed wish of this wise man of the East, one of my spiritual guides, have all conspired to thrust this work upon me. The book will find its way into the expectant hands of some men and women who care for the truth, and it may serve them. I have endeavored to give faithful report to a voice which appears to be dumb in most men. Therefore, I hope these printings will not be without some value to them. The fact that the millions of men and women around me are preoccupied with matters of another order invites me to remind them that they and their activities shall shortly or at length vanish from this globe, but that there is a way open for them, leading to the eternal life, which is enduring treasure. Some will label me of that dwindling crowd of dreamers who think to find a starry height in man. They will not be wrong, but I would beg them to realize that they can make my dream their own reality. The way I have followed may be aside from the common one, but it is not so far off that more cannot tread it also. If a foolish age calls us a band of mere dreamers, we at least have the consolation of knowing that we dream while they sleep in dire spiritual unconsciousness. Others will ask, can this light be followed in the midst of present-day sorrows and sufferings? To them I would say, this is precisely the time when its divine worth This is precisely the time when its divine worth can best be proved. There are certain essential truths about life, which fundamental and unalterable principles govern living, which have known to the wise of all ages, which have been known to the wise of all ages from the farthest antiquity till the present day. Healing can be found for all. No man is so broken, so oppressed by burdens of ill health, poverty, and unhappiness, but there is some way out of or around his problem, or in the last resort, some way to bear it. This is so. This must be so, because all men exist within the universal mind, which has brought this world into being, a mind which is perennially benevolent, unfathomably wise, and eternally peaceful. There are ugly things in the social life around us which may appear to contradict the latter statement, but the man who is willing to make the effort and unfold his spiritual insight will discover that the statement is a true one, all appearances to the contrary. The least result of continued effort along the lines laid down in this book will be that the practitioner will become established in an inner peace which must mark him out from his fellows as a man of envied poise. And after he has found this peace, other people will come to him, both young and old, and question him for the secret which seems to have eluded him. Which seems to have eluded them. And then he, in his turn, will show them the way. And that concludes chapter 1. I hope you're enjoying that. And chapter 2 is entitled, Man, Science's Greatest Riddle. So I would ask you now to please like and subscribe. And till soon.